Welcome to ProAcad, your lifetime mentor. In this video lecture, we are going to discuss one of the most important topics in JEE, NEET, and other competitive exams, as well as in our day-to-day life. Have you ever doubted that whenever you throw a thing in the air, it falls to the ground and falling off fruits from the trees, as thought of Sir Isaac Newton? The reason behind this is gravitation. Okay, today's topic is gravitation, and I shall discuss three of the topics. Okay, those are basic forces in nature. Basic forces in nature. Basic forces in nature. Newton's law of gravitation. Properties of gravitational force. Right. Okay. What are basic forces in nature? These forces in nature which governs everything, whatever it may be, the forming of things and destroying of things. These will be governed by all these basic forces in nature. Right. There are four types. They are gravitational force, electromagnetic force, strong nuclear force, and it is communicated through particles like gravitational force as gravitation, electromagnetic force uh, by photons, strong nuclear force by pi mesons, weak nuclear force by weak bosons. Okay, let us get into the other slides. Okay. Yeah, we have come to gravitational force. First one is gravitational force, right? Yes. In this, the gravitational force is weak but very long ranged, up to infinity. The action of this gravitational force is up to infinity distance, right? It is always attractive force. Yes, it is always attractive force, because when we throw a ball into the sky, it never goes on behind the space or atmosphere of the earth. It falls down to the earth because this is the attractive force. Okay. Yes, it acts between any two pieces of matter in the universe, since mass is its source. Gravitational force is acted. Gravitational force is acted between the two points. Let us see this one. Okay, this is m1 and this is m2. These are two massive what I mean masses in the universe. They are separated by a distance r, and the gravitational force acting between them is F12. F12 is the force acted upon M2 by M1. It is that force is called gravitational force, and F21 is the gravitational force which is acted on M1 due to M2, right? And this gravitational force, we get it as Fg is equal to capital G m1 m2 by r square. Here m1 and m2 are the masses of two particles, and r is the separation between the two particles, and capital G is the universal gravitational constant. Yeah, it is independent of medium between masses. Yes, absolutely, it is independent of medium, because let us see, a ball is thrown into the sky. Here there is water, this is one medium, and here it is air. This is air. When we throw a ball upon the water, it comes down. When you throw ball in the air, it also comes down. So we can say that it is independent of the medium where it was applying there between the two masses. Here this small m is the ball, and the bigger m, the massive particle, is earth. Okay. Yeah, the next point is, it is a conservative force. Yes, of course it is a conservative force, because this doesn't depend upon the path it followed. The work done by this gravitational force doesn't it is independent of the work path, the work it the path the it followed. It follows only the initial and final states of force, or the thing, or the displacement which was continued from x is equal to 0 to something x is equal to y or something else, right? Let us go to the next slide. Right. Yeah, now with this is the this is the most what I mean important forces in the nature. Yeah, it is electromagnetic force. The electromagnetic force causes electric and magnetic effects such as the repulsion between like electrical charges or the interaction of bar magnets. Yeah, electromagnetic forces. Actually, we know that we shall study in what I mean magnetism, that electromagnetism, when a metal is passed through, sorry, the electromagnetic force causes electric and magnetic effects such as the repulsion between like electrical charges or the introduction of bar magnets, right? If you take an electron here and here also an electron, the force between this is a repulsive force because these are two are like charges. And if you take bar magnets as this is north and this is north, these are repulsive because the poles are same here, right? It is long ranged, but much weaker than the strong force. Yes, it is long ranged, it is obvious, it is right. It can be attractive or repulsive force between matters carrying electric charge. Yeah, because it depends upon the charge, right, or the poles of the bar magnets. That's it. Electricity, magnetism and light are all produced by this force. In light, the particles are photons, right? In photons. In magnetism, in magnetism, the charges, the holes and electrons, the charges like this. In electricity, the charges are like electrons, right? This depends on the electromagnetic force. Okay, next, strong nuclear force. The strong interaction between particles is very short ranged. It is almost up to 1 Fermi. 1 Fermi means it is almost 1 femtometer, I think so. 1 femtometer is equal to 1 femtometer, 1 FM is equals to 10 to the power of minus 15 meters in terms of SI system. SI system. This is this These strong nuclear forces we see in subatomic level. Subatomic level means we have this nucleus in the atom and electrons behind them. So these strong nuclear forces are seen in this subatomic. So we can see the interaction between nucleus and the electrons in atoms. So let us take this nucleus. The nucleus radii, the radii of nucleus is 1.5 femtometer, right? 1.5, okay, femtometer. It is responsible for holding the nuclei of atoms together. Yes, it is according to Rutherford's atomic model that when electrons are revolving around the nucleus, there will be centripetal or centrifugal forces here, and there will be stability in them, and the stability here is constituted by strong nuclear forces. Okay, it is basically attractive but can be effectively repulsive in some circumstances. Yes, it can be repulsive too in some circumstances as it's given. The strong force is carried by particles called gluons, and is when two particles interact through the strong force, they do so by exchanging gluons. Okay, let us see it. In nature we have elements. Elements are divided into atoms. Atoms are divided into nucleus and electrons. Nucleus is again divided into nucleons. Nucleons are again divided into protons, neutrons. These protons and neutrons have two energy carrying centers. They are gluons and quarks. Yeah, In the next slide we will learn about gluons and quarks very clearly, so leave it this one, leave it here. I will explain this point in the next PPT itself, sorry, in next slide. Okay, yeah, see here, these are these are protons or neutrons, and these contains quarks, gluons, right? See here, quarks are some spherical like structures which are of three colors. They are blue, red and green. These constant colors are responsible for the sustainable strong nuclear forces interaction. Yes, and these gluons are used for quarks to keep them fixed. These are known as power fixers. Quarks, gluons are known as power fixers, right? Okay, let us see the phenomena here. Okay, when an electron beam bombarded with the neutron or proton, there will be some energy liberation or some energy absorption. This energy brings a disruption or destruction in the structure of quark or gluon, so that the strong nuclear forces distorts their structures or distort their energy levels. So these will be seen in what I mean strong nuclear forces in the subatomic models, right? Okay, let's go to another slide. Yeah, okay, this is the last forces in the four basic forces in the nature. Let's discuss this also. Okay, weak nuclear forces. The weak nuclear force is responsible for radioactive decay and neutrino interactions. Yes, radioactive decay can be seen by these weak nuclear forces in the radioactive elements like plutonium, uranium 235 or uranium 232, like that. Okay, it has a very short range. It is less than 1 femtometer. It is 10 to the power of minus 15 meters. As I told you, it is in SI system. Okay, the weak forces causes beta decay. It is conversion of neutron into proton and electron into neutrino or antineutrino based on the type of beta decay it was done. That may be minus beta decay or plus beta decay. I will explain in the next slide very carefully about beta minus and beta plus decay and the variation in formation of neutrino and antineutrino by the conversion of protons, right? It acts on the subatomic level and plays a crucial role in powering stars and creating elements, right? At first we will discuss powering stars, right? Do you know what is the energy source of star? Energy source of star is proton. Yes, the energy source of star is protons. These protons will be fusioned or combust so that the star get energy so that it can glow. Yeah, in terms of creating elements, yes, if we take this C614 which undergoes beta decay, it forms nitrogen 714 with neutrino, with antineutrino and some other things. Yes, so that there will be creating of elements, right? Here we took only carbon, and by the action of weak nuclear forces, beta decay has done and new element was formed. It is nitrogen isotope. Okay, Okay, this is responsible for much of the natural radiations present in the universe. Nuclear fusion is done. Yeah. Okay, I think so. Everyone is familiar about nuclear fusion. The initiation of the nuclear fusion, there will be bombarding of one proton, one beam of proton with the fueled radioactive element, that may be uranium or plutonium, right? And that is the initiation of the chain. This is the controlled chain system, right? Okay, this is used in the nuclear fusions of sun. The outer surface of the sun is always explosion will be going on and nuclear fusion will be going on for the formation of new elements on their surfaces, and this is the reason that earth is glowing the too much and the light is producing there. Okay, it is communicated through bosons. Yeah, bosons. And the bosons are of two types. Those are W boson and Z boson. W bosons are of two types. They are positively electrically charged and it is negatively electrically charged, and Z is neutrally charged. Okay, the deepness in W plus and W minus Z bosons are not required here in JE NEET. Okay, let us leave it. Okay, we shall go for another slide itself. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I was telling you that I will be discussing about the BT decay and the formation of neutrino and antineutrino in the next slide. Here you can see here. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, just leave it this one first. Let us see this one. Okay, beta minus decay. See, carbon isotope after beta minus decay formed into nitrogen isotope and giving antineutrino and electron. Beta plus decay, carbon isotope C 6C10 with plus beta decay gives boron 510 plus neutrino and positron. The strength of a nuclear weak force determines how fast neutrons are converted into protons and electrons. See this point attaches here. This neutron are converted into proton, antineutrino, electron. Electron in terms of beta particle. Okay, this is positron and this is beta particle. Okay, let it be. This is beta particle. These two are beta particles. This is known as negatively charged electron. This is positively charged electron. This is called positron. This is electron. That's usually its name is negatively electrically charged is electron and positive is positron. And in beta minus decay, the antineutrino will be forming, and beta plus decay, neutrino will be forming, right? Yes, this is all about weak nuclear forces and the basic forces in the nature. Let us go to another topic else. Yes. Yeah, this may be the most or the one of the most important questions in JER NEET. The simple question, and they will be asking the relative strength of the forces, and the MCQs will be given in the ascending or descending or the jumbled manner. That like, okay, when we compare the gravitation, the relative strength of the forces or the intensity of the forces differs like this. Strong nuclear force is 10 to the power of 38 when compared to gravitation it is 1. Electromagnetic force is 10 to the power of 36. Weak nuclear is 10 to the power of 31. When compared to gravitation, it has very very low intensity, but it is, you know what, this is long range. And they will be asking another question that uh, what I mean ascending and descending of the ranges. Gravitation is the most range. What I mean, there will be the infinity, the separation that may be the separation between the masses may be infinity also. There will be the acting of force, gravitational force, right? This is unlike strong nuclear force, electromagnetic force, nuclear force. And, somehow electromagnetic force also observed in this one, not up to gravitation. Yeah, आपको मर्जी है, आपका मर्जी है इसको समझाने ना. Okay, let's go to Newton's law of gravitation. Yeah, have you heard the story called falling of apple from the tree on Sir Isaac Newton's head, and he got a doubt that if apple falls to the ground, why doesn't the moon was staying on its orbit itself? It also should fall on the earth now. I mean, this is the short question he got in his mind. Okay, this led to us for the formation of this Newton's law of gravitation. When after several what I mean several studies. Okay, okay, leave it that one. That is वो दूसरी है. Okay, चलो इसके पीछे चलते हैं. Okay, every object in the universe attracts every other object with a force directed along the line of centers from the two objects that is proportional to product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of separation between the two objects. Here this statement states that every object in the universe attracts every other object. Yeah, if there are two objects or any other object, there will be another object here, another object here, another object here. This object exerts a gravitational force on this one, and this also exerts on this one, this on this one, this on this one, this on this one. Like every object shows its intensity of force, gravitational force on every other object in the universe, but there will be difference in the magnitude. So it depends upon their masses and the distance of their separation, right? Yeah, you'll leave it that one. Okay, we shall see the formula. If mass m1 and mass m2 are separated by a distance r, and this line is joining with two centers, the line is joining, the force of line, the action of force line, right? This is connected between two centers of these two masses. Okay, this is separated by r, and the force, the gravitational force acting on these two masses is capital G into small m1 into small m2 by r square. R is the separation between this m1 and m2, two masses, right? We know that one. And capital G is universal gravitational constant, and m1 m2 are as usual masses, right? Okay, when we go in terms of vectors, what I mean, there will be action of forces, there will be what I mean directions will be there. This is a this is not a scalar, this is a vector quantity, and this is r bar, this is m1, this is m2, and the forces here will be f12 bar, this is opposite this, like, and f21 bar in the opposite direction. Okay, that is fg bar is equal to minus g m1 m2 by r square r cap. Here r cap is the unit vector in direction of r bar. Okay, the negative sign we have given here, it is because it is a attractive force. So this is the scalar, but this is vector now, so there will be adding of direction will be shown here, that is opposite force, so there will be addition of negative symbol here, right? Experimentally we get capital G, universal gravitational constant, as 6.672 10 to the power of minus 11 Newton meter square kg inner square, or in terms of density you can see here, you can by heart this one also. Okay, actually no one explains how we get this capital G is 6.600 10 to the power of minus 11 something units. Okay, this can be explained by Cavendish experiment. Okay, the easiest way of this Sir Isaac Newton was given, the assumption was, I will be showing in the next slide. Okay, let's go. Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah, how we get G is equals to 6.67 into 10 to the power of minus 11 units something. How we get this one? So this is the assumption given by Sir Isaac Newton. Okay, let's do with this one. Newton had calculated the gravitational force that must act on the moon for it to remain in the orbit. Yeah, we can say that if this is the earth and there is an orbit of moon that is revolving around the earth, but that doesn't fall into the earth and doesn't deviate its path. The reason behind this is there will be a gravitational force acting between these two masses, and due to application of this gravitational force there is a resultant centripetal force acting in this side. So these two forces equivalent in magnitude, so they will be stable in its orbit. Okay, this force we should be find out according to point 1. If he knew the mass of earth, he could calculate G. Really, he could. The density of earth at the surface is 2700 kg per meter cube. Yeah, he suspected that it got greater with depth. I think so it is at the surface. I think so it is at the surface where R is equal to 6400 kilometers. Yeah, but he suspected that maybe the density may increase when it comes to the depth, when R is very less what I mean R is less than 6400. So he suspected that may be double. So his assumption was almost good. So he thought 5400, but later it was experimental known that it is 5520. Okay, so it was 5520. Come on, let's go to another slide. Yeah, the acceleration due to gravity at a distance of moon gm is equals to, he calculated gm, the acceleration due to gravity, g is equal to something gm by r square of moon. This is of moon, so it is magnitude got is 0.000272 meter per second square. Okay, for second law, you know the Newton's second law, F is equal to ma, F is equal to ma mass into acceleration. Yet the force acting on the mass moon must have been F is equal to mass of moon into acceleration due to gravity. This may be F is equal to mg of a body in the free in the free space, right? Equating with the force as calculated from his law of gravity gives, okay, capital G into mass of earth. See here, yeah, 1 minute. See here, this is the earth, and this is the moon. The force, this force must equal to the gravitational force between the two masses as moon and one is earth. So this F is should equal to this Fg. This F is due to its mass and its acceleration due to gravity, that may be of moon. Yeah, of moon. So let's see here, it is equating here. So when we solve this, okay, me mass of earth, density is equal mass by volume, mass of earth is equal to density of earth into volume of earth. Density is 5400 as he assumed in the first case. Okay, 4 by 3 pi r cube, and this r is the radius of earth, right? And we get, by calculation, we get 5.93 into 10 to the power of 24 kgs. The mass of earth is 5.93 into 10 to the power of 4 kgs, right? And the distance between the earth and moon calculated on those times of Sir Isaac Newton was 3,84,000 kilometers, the separation between earth and moon. Okay, by solving these two, by keeping this d value in d square and me in this equation, and here m1 is mass of moon, and mass of moon here will be cut on the two sides, are the same of the two sides. Okay, yeah, yeah, by solving here, yeah, mathematical solving is not a problem for you guys. uh, okay, g is equal to, by what I mean, substituting in the energy equation, that the forces are equate, fg is equal to something f of force, f of moon. So by equating these and substituting the value of mass of earth and separation between moon and moon and earth, we will get g is equal to 6.76 into 10 to the power of minus 11. Okay, the current accepted value of g is 6.67 into 10 to the power of minus 11. See here, the difference is, this is 6.67 and this is 6.6, this is 6.76, sorry, and this is 6.67. The difference we got here is due to the density of earth. The density of earth he took is almost, in the depth it is double of 2700, it is 5400. But it is later, after Sir Isaac Newton, it was again calculated, and the exact density of the earth was given as 5520 kg per meter cube. This is the actual density of the earth. So there will be, if you substitute this as the density, you will get this answer. If you'll substitute 5400 as the density, you will get this answer. But after the experimental value, we will get 6.600 to the power of minus 11. This is the, actually, nowadays we are following this one. Okay, yeah, okay, let's go to another topic. Yeah, yeah, the last topic of this lecture video, it is properties of gravitational force. This is the most important under conceptual understanding questions will be raised on this topic itself. Okay, and the some little small conceptual understanding numericals will be also what I mean solved from these properties of gravitational forces. Yeah, come on, let's go. Yeah, gravitational force acts along the line joining the two interacting particles, center of their bodies. It is gravitational force is a central force, right? Yeah. Before I have told you the before that there's two massive particles are lying here, and the line of action of force. This acts from the center of two bodies, as you can see here, and the force acting here, F12, F21, this is m1 and this is m2. You know that F12 is the gravitational force acted upon m2 due to m1, and gravitational force F21 is the gravitational force acted upon m1 due to mass m2. Yeah, this is the first point. Okay, I shall go to second one. Gravitational force is independent of presence of other particles too. Yeah, yeah, you know this one. Okay, let me explain this too. Okay, let us take this one. This is earth, ground, this is water, and this is air. this is air, and a body was thrown from here of mass small m, mass of earth is capital M. So when we throw this small thing, you never throw, you just leave it in the air. Where does it go? It goes down into the water, or into the, what I mean, it touches the earth. It may touches because it depends upon the buoyancy force, that is, this is the another thing, okay, but it goes in the downward direction itself. So the presence of this air medium, the presence of this water medium doesn't involve in this gravitational force, and this is independent of other particles too. Yes, yeah, clear about this. A gravitational force form an action reaction pair. So gravitational force obeys Newton's third law too. Yeah, it's of course. Yeah, let us see that one. Yeah, let me clear that one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So, yeah. Yeah. We are again. Yeah. We are discussing third point. A gravitational force form an action reaction pair. So gravitational force obeys Newton's third law, right? Yeah, it's obviously. So if we take this m1 as this one of the massive particle, and another is m2, m2 there, m2, m2 and m1, the force between them is f1 to f21. This is, and they are separated by distance r. Okay, f1 to f21 are different in their action of direction, right? See here, this is in this direction, that may be clockwise, and this is in anti-clockwise. So there is a difference in direction. Okay, f12, it is the gravitational force. Once again I am explaining this one, okay, don't get bored of this one. Okay, f12 is the gravitational force acting upon m2 due to m1 mass, and f21 is the gravitational force on m1 due to m2 mass. Okay, when we are getting the forces equal, we get f12 bar is equal to minus f21 bar, right? And we are taking in this LHS, we get f12 bar plus f21 bar is equals to 0. This is the action and reaction. These two forces are same but opposite in direction, right? Yes, acting upon the same masses. So this obeys third law of Newton, right? Fourth point, it obeys inverse square law. At first, what do you mean by inverse square law? Inverse square law states that a physical quantity, this must be inversely proportional to its distance or separation. This is called as inverse square law. And if we draw f if you draw a graph f to d square, there we will get rectangular hyperbola. Here we can take f here and d square here. Okay, let us draw here. This is f and this is d square. This is linearly decreasing. This is linearly decreasing because it is inversely proportional to d square. Yeah, and it may be conic sectionally, we can say it as rectangular hyperbola according to conic sections. Yeah, this is another one. Okay, let's go to another slide. Okay, we have gone to another point of properties of gravitational force here, and this is one of the most important properties of gravitational force here. Okay, it is gravitational force is a conservative force. It is the amount of work done by the gravitational force is in displaying a body from one place to another is independent of the path transferred. Okay, when a ball was coming, Okay, let's see here. Right, this is a position x is equal to 10. This is a position x is equal to 0. When a ball was falling from here, this is a ground, small m, and the work done is mgh minus mgh minus mj. This is the work done, potential work done. Okay, work done. But this work done is according to gravity. It is done by gravity, so it is independent of path of transit, but it follows the initial path and the final position. Initial position and the final positions are very important in conservative forces, as I told before in the second slide itself, I think so. Okay, leave it. Okay, it's about gravitational conservative force. Okay, the next one is the net gravitational force on any particle is the vector sum of all individual gravitational forces on it by all other particles in the system. Let me clear this one, okay, so that I can explain you much better. Okay, yeah, sixth point, once again I'm repeating this one. The net gravitational force on any particle is a vector sum of all individual gravitational forces on it by all other particles in the system. F1 net. See here, why I have written F1 net. This F1 net is the force acting upon the mass m1 by all other masses, that may be second mass, third mass, fourth mass, fifth mass, up to nth mass. This is the force acted upon first mass, okay, on m1 due to m2. This is m1, this is m2, this is m3, this is m4, m4, m6, m7. This is f12, this is f34, like that line. Okay, let us take a three body system. This is m1, m2 and m3. The forces acted upon m1 are f12 and this is f31. F31 is the gravitational force acted upon m1 due to m3. F12 is the gravitational force acted upon m1 due to m2. So have you observed that the direction is again the opposite? So this is coming like this one, F12, this is anti-clockwise direction. Yeah, sorry, this is clockwise direction, and F31 is anti-clockwise direction. F31 is, so if we add these two, there will be a negative quantity. For which one of them we can take one of them. Okay, let us take this one. F1 net is equal to F12 plus of minus F31. If we take this is the positive or the application of forces, direction of application of forces, so F31 becomes negative 1 and this becomes positive 1. If we take F31, the direction of force is like this, so there will be opposite. What I mean, it is F31 plus of minus F12. Yeah, that's it. Okay, yeah, okay, I think so you are clear about this. This is the most important. You can get some of the concepts and understanding MCQs. It's not too much rubbish and not too much hard. You can solve these two. Okay, let's go to another slide. Yeah, the last slide of this video lecture. Okay, I'm going with the last point of the properties of gravitational forces. Okay, I think so I have explained this many times in this video lecture. Okay, अभी भी मैं चलता हूँ इससे. Okay, come on. Okay, the sun exerts gravitational force on the earth, but the earth does not move towards the sun because the gravitational pull of the sun on the earth provides the necessary centripetal force to the earth so that the orbit is stable. Yeah, yeah. From this sun planet concept itself, Rutherford's model was came that a revolving of electron falling into the electron and the bursting of whole atom, and that assumption is wrong. So that is another story. That is of charges. This is not of charges. This is of masses now. Let's go with gravitational force. Okay, this moon, or let that maybe this may be Earth. This is moon. Moon is revolving around the Earth with some angular velocity omega. Okay, when this is small m and this is capital M, and we know that according to gravitational force, if there are any particles in the universe and they are separated by a distance something r or something else, and there will be a gravitational attraction force acting between them. Okay, let's see that one. That may be Fg. That may be Fg, but this necessary gravitational force forms another force called centripetal force. This centripetal force helps moon so that it cannot grabbed by the earth, and it does not deviate its revolution on its own path, on its own orbit too, so that these force and these force cancel each other magnitudinally or intentionally. Okay, so that the orbit is stable. Assuming the orbits are circular, gravity causes the centripetal force. Yeah, okay, we shall assume this orbits are circular. Actually, orbits are elliptical. Okay, well, nothing happens. Okay, gravitational force F is G into m1 m2 by r square. As I told you, it's not a matter of that one. Okay, F is equal to mv square by r. This is a centripetal force. And this may be if this moon is revolving with angular velocity omega, then force F is equal to m r omega square, right? This m r omega square will be equal to g m by r square, so that there will be stability in the moment of moon in its own orbit. Okay, and this is the end of properties of gravitational force and end of this video lecture. And in the next lecture I am going to explain you about Kepler's laws of planetary model and variation of acceleration due to gravity, that may be at the height, at the depth, or maybe in the altitude, rotating on the earth surface. Okay, see you then. Okay, bye. Yeah.